Welcome back to another episode of the Erickson Brothers Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Erickson. I'm here with my older brother, Matt Erickson, and on this podcast, we talk about the 5 Fs: faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. All of these areas we want to be growing in, all of these areas we want to be improving in. One thing that's unique about this podcast that you're going to get is that we're answering questions that we don't know the answer to. We're not claiming that we know the answers. We're just other people. We're in the fight. We're figuring this thing out. We're in the hunt as well. So is an in-depth look on something that might be a little bit new of perspective in terms of typical podcasts that are kind of reflecting back on the past. So anyway, I'm fired up. Matt, good morning. Good afternoon. How's your day?
Day's great. Again, Friday afternoon, atypical for us to be recording, but I don't know. I think that again offers a new perspective of the week and maybe additional thoughts and just a different mindset of where we are and what we'll talk about. So
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. How's New York City weather? Mid-February. How you guys doing out there right now?
it's been really nice. So I've heard. So I haven't been outside a lot, but I've heard it's really nice out there. My 4 minute walk to and from the office has been good, but I hear it's really nice the rest of the day too. So I think it's like 60s, 50s to 60s, sunny out. Um, this is a secondary source, so don't quote me on it, but I hear it's been good.
The little less running in Central Park, a little bit more late nights in the office.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, understandable. We're
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's seasons of life. I didn't even know I was going to jump into this, but a lot of people talk about like the work-life balance, but I'm a big fan of more of having like a macro balance. And I think day to day doesn't actually have to be balanced to where what I mean by macro balance is there's can be like seasons in your life where you are work focused, and then there's seasons of your life that are more family focused, right? Or seasons of your life that are more fitness focused, right? So like overall macro, you're gonna be balanced, but like you don't have to focus on like, oh, I need to make sure I work out for an hour and a half every single day. Make sure I read the Bible for an hour and a half every. Maybe the read the Bible isn't a good example here, but you don't have to make sure everything has its own balance day to day. You can be more macro focused. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? First off.
I think there definitely are seasons of life for different focuses for sure. I think, however, there are some things I would range towards a lot of things that you can maximize every single day. Like I think that the working out thing, if you have might not have an hour and a half, but you might have a half hour, and that half hour may be extremely inconvenient for those 30 minutes, but it's going to make the remaining 23 hours and 30 minutes much better. So I think committing to that, even if it's just a little bit, I think that is important. And then there will be seasons of life or maybe times in the week or the month where you can go on your 2 3 hour runs and you can go to the gym for
Yeah.
longer. But I think staying committed and maybe not letting that pendulum fly all the way to one side, I think is important. I think you can operate within fluctuations. But I would say like a lot of things in life, like in in order to be productive and move forward, it is important to do a little bit every day. Uh, Whether that's like studying, there's been scientific research on the importance of seeing your content that you're studying multiple times. Um, there's there's scientific research in working out a little bit every day. Um, Obviously, you can't eat all of your food for the week at one time. You have to eat a little bit 3 times a day, 2 times a day, whatever it is. Because because there are things that you just can't do all at once. So um, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think that's good. And I think it's kind of like the compound pounding effect, where it's like even if it's like that 1% growth, even if it's a 1% growth every single day, it's gonna be pretty big long term. One
Hmm.
thing I would say that's motivating the season of life where I can put more into my fitness. Where it's like
Hmm.
I'll say it this way. I'm very motivated to have the season of my life where I can spend a lot of time with my family and spend a lot of time, like spend an hour working out and do a sauna and do a cold plunge every day and like eat healthy food. And like I'm motivated to go live that life. So I'm okay to live the life I'm living now where I might sacrifice a little bit of my relationship health. I might sacrifice a little bit of my fitness health just so I can financially get myself in a place where when I have a family and I'm in my 30s and early 40s, I can have the flexibility to live the life of my dreams, quite frankly.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's important too. But if your goal is the life you want at 30s and 40s, then maybe doing keeping some of those things on the back burner
Yeah.
is important if you want to get to where you want to get to.
Like,
Knowing that there will be a focus later, but knowing like, hey, I still gotta pay attention to the fitness. I still gotta pay attention to the relationships. Uh, Even though it might not be priority 1A, it needs to be there. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. No,
Hmm.
I think that's good. It's like you don't have to forget about something. It just doesn't have to be your main thing.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. I think just kind of pivoting here, the one thought I had this week was just that just what God says and what the Bible says versus what the world says. And I think Jeff, you'll really like this. So the world will tell you that you need to make this much money. The world will tell you you need to wear these clothes. The world will tell you you need to have this many followers on Instagram, and the world will tell you you need to have this house with this car. And or the world will even tell you you messed up here. You should feel shame. You should do this. And all these things are very fixed. Like the world will say, oh, you need to have X amount saved in the bank at this time. Um, and that's all very like fixed things, and it's all very fixed mindset. And my thought this week is, despite that, God tells you, and the Bible tells you, we are defined by our growth. We are defined by not who we were or who we are now, but who we are in Jesus in our process to sanctification, becoming more like Him. Um, we are defined by what He did for us on the cross, and that's it. And now that we know that, we can grow into the people that God wants us to be, and we can grow into the life that He wants us to live. And that's how we're defined. We're not defined by mistakes. We're not defined by tangible things in this world, what we've done or what we will do. Are defined by what Jesus did, and through that, how we can become more like Him.
Do you think a lot of people, well, this is like a loaded question, but do you think most people define themselves by their career, or where do you think most people kind of wrap their identity around?
I think in the I would say in my circle, and probably in your circle too, it is a lot career. And And in those circles, the world says you you need to make this much money and you need to have this to your job title and you need to be doing this and this and this, and if you're not, then you need to be better. And just getting out of that lie, because there will always be something worldly to chase, and that there will never be that satisfaction that you're looking for. Um, but God tells us, how can we be salt and light to the earth through our jobs and through our friends and what we can do on a day-to-day basis, to where we can walk as he walked and talk as he talked.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
Mhm. So
Uh,
one of my buddies, uh, he asked me the other day, like, what is the biggest lie that the devil is telling you right now? And I thought about it for a second, and so what he said was, the biggest lie that the devil's telling me right now is that just because I am a pastor and just because I'm married and I'm faithful and growing in my relationship with my wife, and just because this, everything is guaranteed to be better later. And like that's not true. God does not guarantee anything. That He does bless us in ways where we are faithful to Him, but none of this is guaranteed. Um, so his lie was that, oh, just because I'm doing this means I deserve this, I deserve X, I deserve Y. And are you following? Does that make sense?
so it was, I'm dwelling on this question because it was a really good question. What is the biggest lie?
Yeah.
What's the biggest lie that the devil's telling you? And I'm like really
Mhm.
thinking about this. So keep going.
Yeah. So that was his, and he asked me the same question. So mine was, the devil is telling me that I'm in the same race that everybody else is in New York City. The race being make the money, get the make the most money, get the coolest job, have the coolest apartment, go to the coolest restaurants. Like, that's the lie, is that I constantly need to be chasing that. And the lie is that I'm also in this race to where I need to have certain experiences, when in reality it's the complete opposite, where I'm in the race of being a faithful servant and using the gifts and talents that God has given me in this life right now to just be open ended and say, hey, where can I be of service to you, Lord? And I think it's so easy to get, for me personally, it's so easy to get caught up in chasing, or winning, that it's really hard, to be able to take a step back and be grateful what the Lord has given me, be aware of where I'm at right now, and then just open up my heart to where and whatever God is calling.
Yeah,
So does that make sense?
it does. I'm following. I think it's good.
Okay.
The whole thing with like you're in a different race than other people. Um, I mean, 100%. That's
Mhm.
what Jesus came to do. Is he came to shake things up. He didn't. In the Bible it says, "I did not come to bring peace, but to be a sword." And he didn't come to bring people together. He came to divide people and to separate people. And yeah, I mean, separating people on the race is 100% one of his things. Is like, that's the world. I came for this. I came to not be a part of the world. Um, so I love it. I think that's good.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I just to clarify there, Jesus did not come to divide people. He came to love them and show them the heart of God, the show them what God was like in human form, and he was very inclusive, but he was also very clear on what was right and what's wrong. So there's no in between. There's no one foot in, one foot out. It, Christianity, and faith is inclusive of everybody, but it's not inclusive of everything. Um,
I
one of the things I mentioned,
hold on before we transition. Um, I think he did come to divide people, right? It talks about like dividing people like in heaven, separating like the people kind of like animals, kind of like how a shepherd separates his animals. It's like a clear cut in terms of like, do you invite God into your life? Like, do you look at him as your Lord and Savior? Did he die on the cross for your sins? Yes or no? I don't, I think he did come to divide people.
well, I I don't think you're saying that correctly. I think he came. He wants everybody to go to heaven.
Right.
That's clear, but it is clear how you get there, and not everybody gets there.
Oh, so like division isn't his goal. It is the result of what he wants.
I mean, God's love, God's acceptance into heaven is a gift that we are given from Him. Okay. There's nothing us as humans we can do to earn that. We can't, the better, good people, right? Like, don't get into heaven for being good people. That's the main differentiator in Christianity. You get into heaven by believing in what God did. You believe that He took on flesh in Jesus and then died on the cross for your sins. If you believe that, you're going to heaven. That in itself is a gift. That gift is available to everybody, but not everybody receives that gift. And if you choose not to receive that gift, then you're not going to heaven. But He does give it to everybody. Does that clarify things?
I think it does. Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think, going back to the question, I think the biggest lie the devil's trying to tell me is I think it's in relationship to how I see God. I think the devil is trying to have me see God in a different way than how I should see God. And I don't know how to phrase this. Maybe you can help me out with the words, but like, I think the devil is trying to have me see God as somebody that's like more of a friend and more of like confirming that everything I do is okay. And like, oh, it's, like I don't need to, like, kind of like earlier, like, I don't need to grow. I don't need to be challenging myself in my faith. I don't need to be reading the Bible every day. Like, it's okay. God saved me. Like, it's okay. I don't have to be
Right.
trying to pursue every single area. And I think that's the biggest lie
Right.
that the devil's trying to tell me is to tell me who God is and how I should see God. And
Mm-hmm. And I think this might help. It sounds like the devil is minimizing sin in your life.
yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
He's saying, "Oh, it's okay to it's okay to feel pride once in a while. It's okay to not be entirely truthful. It's okay to cut corners um, in this, and it's okay to watch that movie, or it's okay to be friends with. It's a
Yeah,
backtrack sense. It's okay to allow this kind of behavior um, because I think God is our friend, but the best friends hold each other accountable. Um, and I think in loving our friends, we the best friends should be able to come to their friends and say, "Hey, man, it's not okay that you did that. It's not okay that what you said or what you did, like that's not okay. That's the friendship that we have with God." So
good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff. That's a good
Mm-hmm.
question.
So
What's the biggest lie devil's telling you
yeah,
about? I think that's something
yeah.
uh,
So
I want to reflect on more.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the Bible says we should hate our sin and hate anything that is not of the Father, um, because it is sin. And the devil will say, "Oh, it's okay. You're not like that person, but it's okay to cut a corner here." But that is sin. So,
Flee from
hmm
the flag.
hmm
Cool. Good.
so I think that for me is a daily struggle to where there's a daily struggle in the current job to be the best I can be and continue this. Wait, no, back up again. God also calls us to be the best we can be. That's another way we can show light and be salt of the earth, is to be the best we can be of whatever we're being.
Yeah.
But when that becomes the idol and when that becomes focus, that's when it becomes harmful. So
You can idolize yourself almost,
yeah, yeah. So
or idolizing like a
I
future
think
self.
right, right. So I think just going back to the world will tell you. I think the world tells me I need to be like this or I need to have this job, very fixed things. But God says you are loved, you are mine. You can put your faith and trust in me, and that in itself is a growth mindset. Because while we're on this earth, there will never be a time of comfort because we are not. This is not our home. As a, I don't know what Bible verse that is, but on this earth, we will never get to this point where we're the ideal Christian or the perfect Christian. We are never going to be Jesus, but we can strive to get like that, and we can strive to be like that. So that's that's where the growth mindset comes in,
Hmm.
and what God tells us. So,
Cool. Cool. Good stuff.
mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I went to I went to Chosen, the movie. It just came out in theaters, and it's like the first three episodes of season 4, and it's really cool. Just seeing what Jesus's life would have looked like in like 2023 version of a movie, and it helps me build a better relationship with him and like just how he interacted with people. I think it's super fascinating, and um, yeah, I just keep thinking about that as you're kind of talking about being a Christian and following him is like the image of
Mm-hmm.
different scenes from that movie. So, if you guys are listening,
Mm-hmm.
go watch the show The Chosen. Super good. I'd recommend it.
Mm-hmm. 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 So yeah, I think that's good. For me, it's uh, the lie is the striving, and for you, the lie is who God is and potentially minimizing sin in your life.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
I mean,
mhm.
it's not a battle that you necessarily ever win. Um,
No, but that like that is that's the growth mindset. Like to to make a sports illustration, like Mike Trout does net he never will get to a point and be like, boom, I'm done. I never need to practice. I never need to lift. I never need to hit another home run. No, he will always be trying to get better, and he will always be trying to have better plate discipline, have better contact, have better power, potentially healthier, more flexible. Like that is the growth mindset. We as athletes, you're never arrived. Similar to a Christian, you've never arrived. It is a constant, it's a constant striving for growth. Um, and I think maybe that's why I find a lot of similarities in sports and in Christianity. So,
Cool. Good stuff.
mhm, mhm,
Good stuff.
mhm.
Topic number 2. You got anything in the pipe?
Yeah. I think just generally, there's been a few instances of friends that just to keep it broad, life is not going their way. And
What's an example without giving details or names?
I think um, you don't make the sports team, or you get hurt, or you don't get the promotion, or you don't get the bonus you want, or the job you want, or your physical health is not what you want it to be, and things out of your control are just happening to you, right? Like call it bad luck, call it life, right?
I heard this term,
Um,
life do be lifing.
life do be lifing. So when life do be lifing, there's two very similar situations that happen between a Christian friend and a non-Christian friend, and just the complete difference in responses that they had in the situation was just remarkable to me, and it was very comforting to see one, the Christian friend who reacted the way he did, and and personally I was like, wow, like thank God I also literally thank God I can also be of that mindset, right? Non-Christian friend, poo happens, life happens, and the mindset around it is, oh, it's a waiting game. It's we just need to trust, or we just need to wait it out and it will be better. The grass is greener, and all the things you hear in the world constantly that are lies, but don't give any hope. You know, like the ability to say, "Oh God, wherever you have me now, that's where I can be of the most value. That's like you have me here for a reason. I might not have gotten the promotion I wanted, or I might not have um, made the team I wanted, or I might not have, or I'm in this poor financial or physical or emotional situation. But whatever you're here doing in my life, I can still be a light of the world, and I can still impact people, and I can still be good." On the other side, you have, oh, bummer, I need to do more. It's a waiting game. I This is life, blah blah blah. That's it. There's no hope in that, you know. Um, and I'm grateful that I do have hope. And I do, and I can lean on God in tough times. Um, and also, I now have the opportunity to be very forefront with the friend who's
Yeah.
in this situation, and say, "Hey, man, one, I'm praying for you. Two, I hope it gets better. Three, like there's there's another life out there that promises hope and forgiveness, and just even though you might not be made perfect on this earth, you will be in heaven." and that's putting faith in Jesus Christ. Um, so just both of those takeaways. One, I'm glad I'm in the camp I'm in, but two, this is an opportunity to preach the gospel here.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the story in the Bible where someone builds their house on the sand and somebody builds their house on the rock, right? And the sand is
Mhm.
like building your house on earthly things like career, health, uh, relationships, all of that, whatever that might look
Mhm.
like, money, fitness.
Mhm.
And then building your house on the rock is having your hope and faith in Jesus. And, it talks about when the storms come, when the winds come, when the rains pour, what house is going to be sturdy. And obviously, the
Mhm.
house built on the rock is going to have that foundation. So when life do be life, and what house are you going to be able to have? Is it going to be the house built on the sand that's
Mhm.
going to collapse and it's going to fall apart, and you're going to turn to drinking,
Mhm.
turn to the clubs, or turn to instant gratification, drugs, pornography, whatever that
Or,
looks.
or even could be, oh, I'm gonna turn to fitness, or I'm gonna turn to like
Yeah,
whatever it is, whatever it could be.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
it's like, am I,
Continue.
or do I know that um, my future is secure? And here's the cool thing, and I heard a pastor describe that same story very similar in the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus was actually talking about this. Um, the sand during the winter, when the sea comes back in and the Sea of Galilee gets a lot smaller in volume, the sand,
Mhm.
because of the water transparency and just like the salt and everything, the sand,
Well, the tide's out.
yeah, when the tide's out, right, the sand
Yeah, the
it's
elevation is lower. Yeah.
yeah, the sand itself in the Sea of Galilee feels like a hard rock. The sand feels like
Mhm.
it's a firm foundation in that part of the world. It literally feels like a rock, like it doesn't move, it doesn't feel like sand. But when the water comes, that rock that you thought it was gets washed away. So I think that's fascinating, because it's like, yeah, when everything's good, yeah, sun's out, everything, it feels like a firm foundation that you're building your house on. But like that rock
Mhm.
is not rock, it's sand, and it's a
Yeah.
fugazi, it's a facade.
Yeah. 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 That's really good. I think the I heard that story too recently, and I think one takeaway I had was whether you build your house on the sand or the rock, the storm comes. Life be lifing, right?
Hmm.
Just because we just because Christians built their house on the rock does not mean the storm won't come.
Yeah.
Like the storm hits everybody, uh, which
Wow.
is which is a good illustration of how life is. Like
Mhm.
sometimes there are times when we don't get the promotion, or we're not at the right physical health, or people turn your back. Like life happens, right? But it's the foundation that we're turned to.
When
And
Go ahead.
and the second takeaway I had was a pastor said this recently was you can't build your house on rock and sand. That just doesn't happen, right? You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out in this Christianity in life, right? Like that just wouldn't work because if you got 1 foot on the rock and 1 foot on the sand, storm comes, it's all falling over.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
all
it's falling apart. Yeah.
it's all getting washed away. So for me, I'm like, wow, like it is self-reflection time. Do I have 1 foot on the rock and 1 foot on the sand? And like I think that's one that's like part of like my mindset with a lot of things. I'm always gonna think like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I need to be better. I'm needing to be better. But like, hey, maybe that's my foot on the sand, is me thinking I always need to be better, right? And what the truth is that, hey, I can rest. Like I can just accept God's love as I am right now and just say thank you, knowing that storms are going to come, but also knowing be okay.
Yeah,
And
and that God's in the storm with us.
right, right. So
One
yeah.
one conversation that I remember we were hiking back in Boulder, and you're telling me that you were reflecting on your time at Washington State, and you were like, yeah, I felt God call me there. I felt like He brought me there, and that it was like His path that I was going down. And you were just telling me that, like, even though God calls you down a specific path, doesn't mean He's going to clear out every single adversity on that path. Like, it's not, it doesn't, that doesn't mean it's
Right,
a smooth path. And you're talking
right.
in reflection to some of the adversity that you went through at your time at Washington State.
Hmm.
And that conversation really stuck with me, just because it was like, even though God calls you somewhere, it doesn't mean where He's calling is going to be easy. Doesn't mean it's going to be white sand beaches,
Yeah.
Bahamas.
Hmm.
Like, sometimes He does
Hmm.
call you down the path that's going to be rough. He's like, it could be storm. He could be leading you into the storm. So, um, yeah, I remember that convo.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. And I think now the just despite the complications baseball wise leading to surgery, like last Friday I had a hour long conversation with the leader of athletes in action at Washington State. Um, and a month ago when I was home, I had an hour long conversation with one of the pitchers at Washington State. Um, I went to his wedding earlier this summer. So despite baseball being a failure there, in worldly terms, right? Just went there to play baseball and pitch, and I only pitched a few times and then got surgery. Um, the relationships I have from that are still alive and still going well. And that's like maybe and I still am in that, like there's the baseball, good or bad, is done with now. But the relationships, independent of baseball, will always be there. So
Good stuff.
yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Wow.
So
Love it. Wide, very a depth of the conversation. I didn't know we were going to go here today on a Friday afternoon. I didn't know we were going to go this in depth, but I like it, and it's giving me a fresh perspective um,
hmm.
on some things.
Hmm.
We should
Yeah.
let's switch gears to something completely different, because one thing our podcast does is we bring a depth of our conversation in multiple different areas of our life, and we
Uh-huh.
change things up, right? I know you went to this super bougie restaurant in New York City, and one of my goals is, I literally have a top 25 dreams list of like 25 dreams I want to be able to accomplish over the course of my whole entire life,
Uh-huh.
whether that's being $1 million income earner, having $1 billion real estate portfolio, lake houses, the family, coaching my son in football, all of those good things that are on my dreams list. One of my dreams is being able to eat at the world's nicest restaurants. And I know you had an opportunity to eat at one of New York's finest establishments. So tell me about that. What's your experience with some of the cuisine in New York, and especially with the restaurant you went to?
Uh, Gosh, yeah. The one thing why I like New York so much is that there is just so much going on, and you have so much influence from all over the world, and there's just a lot of cool things to do, including going to restaurants. So one of my I wouldn't so this restaurant is not it's not the nicest, like in terms of waiters in tuxedos and drinking champagne with your pink pie. I'd say it's a small restaurant that's iconic. It's called Four Charles. And I think the allure of it is just is just how hard it is to get into. Um, one, because of the food and the atmosphere, but and also just the size. Like they said about 40% of their reservations are reserved for just weekly appointments that people either who live in the neighborhood or people that really like the restaurant. So only 60% of the restaurant is available for just, yeah, click on that main photo. Yeah. So
Almost like a cigar
so
lounge vibe.
yeah. So it's cool. And like this the restaurant is probably half of what you're seeing. So there's probably like 10 tables in this place, the entire thing. We sat to the right there. That's that table that's partly cut off. Um,
This is the whole restaurant.
so pretty much like there's probably a table or two behind the camera.
Wow.
Um,
It's I like the leather seats, like the oil paintings, it's like almost like
oh,
a
it was so cool. It was so cool. And wait, go to videos and then click on the burger.
I'll pull it back up here.
Yeah. Yeah, click on the 26-second one.
Okay. Let's pull this up on YouTube real quick. Just give our users a full experience.
But anyway, one of my buddies got the reservation. We sat down at 11:15 p.m. and it was just amazing. We did order the burger. Um,
And I want to make sure it's coming through on your side. All right. Can you see this okay?
I can see it, but it's not playing.
Okay, I'll play it. Let me make sure I share my let me share this with sound just in case it does have sound. That when I do
I
share it.
mean, the sound is not.
Okay, the sound doesn't
I
matter.
don't think the sound is not the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so did it have
That was probably my reaction. I think that's exactly what my face looked like. Just an inaudible, just exhale.
did it have the bacon and the egg and everything?
Yes. And they did the exact same thing. It was, I mean, it was incredible. Um, yeah, one of my buddies just got the reservation, and it was just so cool to just, and it was worth it. It was worth sitting at 11 p.m. and not leaving until 12:45, and not being able to fall asleep because of how much sodium was in my body.
Well,
But so it was great. I think the main takeaways from just broadly just being able to take advantage of cool experiences. Why I like New York. The food was just so good. But yeah, yeah, it was great. It was great.
no, I think that's
Mhm.
awesome. Even like small little, I don't even know if you'd call that a hole in the wall just because it's so well known, but just those unique places that you can't find anywhere else. Um, I'm
Mhm.
excited to be able to do that in cities across the US. And that's one thing I
Mhm.
want to spend my money on is experiences, like dinners with family and um, being able to eat at like nice restaurants and not having to worry about the price tag, so to speak, in terms of just like being at a spot financially where you don't have to restrict what you order on the menu because of your budget. and I'm looking forward to that
Hmm.
part of my life as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that was probably the Fort Charles meal was probably uh like definitely like top five meals I've had ever.
Legit.
Yeah,
And
it was really
Midtown,
um, West Village.
West Village. Okay, cool.
But
Cool.
okay, here's another story. So on Wednesday, I went out on a date and I made reservations to this cocktail lounge. And the reservations explicitly said, "This is a reservation for dinner. Just drinks will not be accepted." And I was like, and I go, are they going to turn me away if I just order a drink and then not order food? Like, probably not. Like, I don't see them. I don't see them have this happening. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna roll the dice here and just do the and just get a drink with this girl. So she shows up probably 2 minutes before I do, and so when I walk in, she goes, "Oh, apparently there we don't have a reservation for a drink, and we have to sit down." And I just said, "Yeah, I think he's gonna see this anyway. Let's just ask." And the we go up to the hostess, and the guy goes, "Sir, you obviously don't read your emails because it explicitly said this reservation was for food and not just for drinks." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." What um is this going to be a problem? And he goes, "No, you know what? Since you obviously can't read your email, I'll let you sit down anyway." And then we sit at the table and order drinks, and that was that. Um,
You should have
and right after he left, I
you
was
should
like, yeah, like,
you should have just gotten water. Just not even getting like a cocktail. Just like just get water, you know. Um man,
yeah.
was
But
it
I don't know if that's untruthful or dishonest. Like, we did end up getting an appetizer,
that's food.
but there were, it was nice to be able to sit down at this place because people who were just drinking were standing. Um, but yeah, that was a fun story. Huh?
I think if you tip well, you're fine. You know, like give them like a 30 or 40% tip, you're fine.
Yeah, I tipped 20% and then gave the coat check lady $5. And we were there for like an hour and a half, so not crazy. Um, but I think that honestly, I thought that they were going to do what they were going to do and it wasn't a big deal, but the hostess did not seem too happy. So now I know.
Now you know. Well,
Yeah, I thought it was just some like automatic reply where it's like, oh, everybody gets this, but nobody really follows it. But turns out everybody followed it. So that one was cool too. That one was called Employees Only. So
did
it's a little speakeasy vibe.
did it lead to a second date?
Well, it was 2 days ago, so there's not been a second date, but that was a first date.
Do you think she'll qualify for date?
So, yeah, she does. She does. Um, so yeah, she's cool.
I
We'll see what happens.
I one point I want to say about this is I was talking about like relationships with someone in the office, and they said something.
Mhm.
They're just like the red flags that I have seen with them haven't thrown me off. It's the red flags that I have seen isn't that big of a deal. So it's like It's not like there aren't any red flags. It's like you've noticed them, but they're not that big of a deal.
There they are. They're waving, but you can deal with it. Okay. Got it. So I would say first date, no red flags revealed yet. Um, but that just means I haven't figured them out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, you haven't spent enough time with that person. That's all that is.
No, no. Right. So yeah, I guess that's why there's gonna be a second date because we got to figure out what the red flags are.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well,
I'll text her that right. I'll text her that right now and say, hey, when can we go on a second date and I can figure out what your red flags are?
for the right person, like
Why don't you just tell me right now so I don't have to waste my time?
so it's like, are you unemployed? Like you have daddy issues? Like what?
Just can you give me the number of all your past boyfriends and I can ask them why it didn't work out?
Like a
But
job.
yeah. Huh?
It's like a job reference.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean that's probably some truth to getting the ex-boyfriend's numbers and seeing what that because maybe the red flag for them that they didn't like you like, oh, I actually really like that about her. Like
Mhm.
quite obviously like faith and religion. Definitely a red flag for some, but for me and for you, it's like that's the only flag that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
That's that is the green flag that only needs to be there. Really, anything else is extra. So
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, finishing up today, kind of closing it off for this week. Any parting thoughts, any parting words of wisdom to our lovely listeners here?
I'm so excited to lift arms when I'm done with work today.
Hitting the Yale Club.
I'm just I'm just gonna get the biggest pump ever. So I'm
And
really excited about that.
you guys have to keep in mind the biggest pump at a Yale club is like a mediocre pump at a regular club. So you guys, so I can put missionary out there. So like he's going for a regular workout at like a 24-hour.
uh,
That's
but there definitely is some truth to that. Um, but I guess one thing I did hear is like I think this was just like some generic motivational video, when they do like just like the generic motivational Instagram video where they have like the different cuts with the camera moving and all that. But the voiceover was go and find the most expensive gym membership you can find in your area and go to that on a consistent basis and then build your friends around that because those people are going to be disciplined, they're going to value their physical health, they're going to have um, the lifestyles that lead to somebody who cares about going to the gym and who wants to make an investment in that. um, I think the same goes for going to church, but just in order to surround yourself with good people, you need to go to those places where those people are. So for in this particular Instagram video, it was the nicest gym membership you can find. The Yale Club is not the nicest gym. Yeah, let's all be clear. The Yale Club is not the most expensive gym membership I can find. I'm not following that advice
good.
because
Still good.
very much what?
Still good associations, but in terms of the fitness side,
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Not a lot of people are going to be showing a bicep vein on a Friday night there, but that's me.
You know you're not gonna get a martini and try to challenge somebody in chess, but when it comes to arm curls, that might be a different conversation.
Sounds like a great thing to do after.
That'd actually be pretty fun. Just try to run the chessboard on a Friday night.
I've done it once or twice, played, not ran it, but I have partaken. So
Cool, 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 cool.
yeah,
Well,
all right. Well, we've talked long enough.
yeah,
We've
we're finishing
bored people.
this week and closing things out. That's your wrap of the weekly update on the Erickson Brothers and on this podcast. We're talking about faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. Matt, we'll talk soon.